Okay, hello all. Let's get started. So here's a little preview of what we're working on. We're going to be working with these files, the black background, the orange, the mountains, the sky, and the road. And what we're going to do is we're going to composite those together into something more of a surrealist um, image here. You can see orange sun is our goal. Now, speaking of goals, we will have, look at that. There we go. We will be dealing with these two file sets. Both of these are downloadable from the website under today's date. That's the black background. That'll be this right here. And then there'll be this PSD Surreal Demo zip. Now a zip file, download it. This showed up in my downloads. It'll do the same for you. If you double click on a zip file, it unpacks. And then inside of that new file, see this file right here, we can look at everything I provided, which is the exact same as you're seeing in Photoshop right here. So we have the long road, we have the mountains, we have the orange, and we have the sunset. But in addition to that, we also have these little screenshots, which I put in as a kind of preview of today's goal. There's this sort of motif of this sunrise and these surrealist landscapes. So I figured this was a great way for us to move through compositing. Now, everything we're doing today in this demo, we'll be doing it through a landscape, but the exact same techniques can be used for any sort of compositing. You can do everything we're doing today on body parts or heads, put arms on other people, all sorts of stuff like that. So just think about this as a good concept demo and realize that we can apply these in multiple different ways. So what I'm going to do here is from the download, I'm going to grab these files, and there's going to be 5 of them. I'm going to hold down Command so I can choose them individually. I'm going to start with my black background, make sure I have that, and then my sunset, my orange, my mountains, and my long road. You should have 5 files that we're going to be working with. I'm going to open these up in Photoshop, so I'm just going to double click and say Open With and choose Photoshop. They should populate into my window. Now there's a few that we see here, and then the rest that you don't see will be under this little double caret here, and you'll be able to toggle between them. So I'm going to be dealing first with the long road. Now, as you can see, this is a nice shot, but it's not exactly what we want as far as space. So if I look under image, and I know you can't see the top bar of my window, that's just something that this video capture hasn't let me do yet, so we're moving with it. Under image, if I go to image size, I can see that my image here is about 26 inches wide by 16 inches tall. Now it's only 72 dpi. We'll talk about resolution in another demo, but right now 72 dpi is low, but at least the image is a large size, which is in our favor. Photorealistic DPI is 360, so 72 is exactly what you need for web images, but won't be photorealistic if we print it, but for what we're doing, we're just fine. So this is the actual image size. That's excellent, but it's 26 by 16. I would love to have this more like 26 by 26. Now, I don't want to do that to the image because that will just stretch it. So instead, I'm going to go back under image and I'm going to choose canvas size. Now, canvas size, I can go in and change that to 26 inches tall. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to see this little dot. That's how it will anchor your image. So right now, if I were to hit OK, I would get white space at the top and white space at the bottom because it would hold my image in the center and enlarge the canvas from there. Instead, I want all the white space to be at the top. So I'm going to anchor my image at the bottom by clicking right here and bringing that circular dot to the bottom. And then I'm going to say OK. Now, if we look, it anchored my image at the bottom, and it opened up all this extra space up here. So now if I look at my rulers by hitting Command R, I can see that, yep, I'm 26 wide by about 26 tall, and that's fantastic. So what I'm going to do from here is a little bit of maintenance, which means I'm going to go to my image, and I'm actually, since this is going to be the image that's going to start my whole piece, everything else is going to build into this image. I'm going to double click on the background and actually just make it a normal layer, not a background. This way, it's a little bit easier to work with. The other thing we're going to talk about is masking. So do we all see this little Japanese flag looking thing at the bottom here? Now that's a mask. I'm going to hold onto my layer and I'm going to click that. And you'll notice I get a second layer here. You don't ever want more than one of these right now. When you get more advanced, maybe, but right now you never want more than one. Now, I'd like to look at two things. I'd like to look over here at my color palette, and I'd like to look over here at my layer. Now, if I click on the image and I go to my color palette, you'll see my color palette's green and white. If I click on my mask, you'll see my color palette's white and black. That's because if you draw on your mask in black and white, you will either remove or add information. And what I mean by that is, here's my image, here's my mask. If on my mask I grab my brush and I start drawing with black, you can see right here, this is where I drew, and you can see right here, this is what's invisible. So what masking does is it allows you to remove information, kind of like deleting, but if I switch my paint color back to white, you can actually fix things. So this is a way for you to remove information, visual information, and then if you realize you made a mistake or don't love it, you can come back and fix it. And as long as the Photoshop file is open and you have this little mask on the side of it, you can fix it as many times as you want. So with that, I'm going to use this mask to remove this top section because I want to throw in mountains, I want to throw in a sun, I really need some space back here. So I'm going to use this square marquee that's up in the upper left here. It could be any one of these symbols when you actually click on it because it has multiple tools, but we're going to be using the rectangle marquee. And I'm going to fill or draw a little line right down to the horizon line. I might eat just a little bit of that horizon line, but I'm going to go to right there. I'm now going to say edit, and I'm going to say fill. And I'm going to say, I'm actually just going to fill with the background color, right? Because black right here removes, it's my background color. This would be my foreground color. That would be my background color. Background color, I'm going to say go for it. Boom. And all of a sudden, I have a clear sky back here. Absolutely nothing going on. And you can see over here in my mask that upper area is completely covered in black. Now, it's really important to point out that we don't want to draw directly on the image. We want to draw on the mask, and that will choose what we show and what we hide. So I've got this little marquee going on now. If I want to get rid of that, I just hit Command D, and it goes away. What I'd like to put in here next is actually the mountains. So why don't we find mountains and clouds? Now, I actually have mountains and clouds right here, but if it's not showing up for you, you can go over to the carrots in the corner of your window and choose mountains and clouds. Oh, check that out. That's not too shabby. So I'm coming in here. I'm going to actually just say Command A. Command A chooses to select the entire image. Now, for PC users, I'm assuming that would be, what's yours? Control A? Something like that? Either way, I'm sure you can figure out. Command copy. So that would be Command C. I'm then going to go back to my long road and say Command paste. Look at that. Now, what happened here is if I zoom out by hitting Command minus, we can see my image is way bigger than I need it to be. I can start to move it around and you'll see like, yeah, we got a lot of mountain range to play with here. It's much bigger than what we're dealing with. So I'm going to choose edit and then transform and scale. And we start to see how big that is. Now I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to shrink that horizon line down. Now I want this mountain range to be just large enough to sort of sit something like that. Now we don't have to worry about the sky, and I'll show you why in a minute. But for right now, I'd like you to scale it down to something around this scale and then hit return. Now we have our sky and we have our road, but they're not in the position I'd like them to be. So I'm going to grab layer 1 here, which is my mountain range, click on it and drag it below my other one. Oh, look at that. That's pretty decent. Command plus plus plus, And I've got a nice little horizon line, and now I've got this mountain range that's hanging out right there. So it's got an okay sky, but it's not the sky I want to work with. So this area is pretty good. This area is pretty good. This area's got to go. Let's review our selection tools. We just used a rectangular marquee. Instead of the marquee, we could use all of these tools. But actually, I prefer for something like this, I'm going to use this tool right here, which is the quick selection tool. Now, the quick selection tool is wonderful because with it selected, I'm just going to start drawing in the sky. And this allows the AI of Photoshop to select the area that's different. So here it sees the mountain range and then it sees the sky and does a beautiful job of selecting those two. In this scenario, this works really well. Quick selection tool only works with these really stark differences. But for right now, it's looking pretty good. I will use this tool, but I'm going to take 1 second to step back because right now we need to add a mask first. So I'm going to hit Command D. I'm going to go to my mountain range, which is this layer 1 down here. I'm going to add a mask. I'm then going to make sure that I'm actually on the picture because I need to be on the picture for when I make my selection. So back to my selection tool, my quick select, and I select my top mountain range, or the clouds above my top mountain range, I should say. I'm going to go back to my layer, and I'm going to make sure I'm on my mask. Now this is really important. The selection tool happens on your actual image. The actual masking happens on this layer. I'm going to go back under Edit, Fill. Now I'm going to want black to fill, and that's my background color. So if you look over here, black is the background color. White is the foreground color. So I'm going to choose my background color because it's black and say OK. And as it filled over here, it made my mountain range disappear.